Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the lecture series on numerical analysis. So, in this lecture, we will study about the roots of algebraic and transcendental equations, or zeros of algebraic and transcendental equations. So, in scientific and engineering studies, a frequently occurring problem is to find the roots of an equation of this form: fx equals to 0. If fx is a quadratic, cubic, or biquadratic expression, then algebraic formulas are available in literature for expressing the roots in terms of the coefficients. On the other hand, when fx is a polynomial of higher degree or an expression involving transcendental functions, algebraic methods are not available, and a recourse must be taken to find the roots by approximate methods. So in this lecture, we concerned with the description of several numerical methods for the solution of equation of the form which is defined by equation number 1, where fx is algebraic or transcendental or a combination of both. So first we define what are the algebraic transcendental equations are. So now algebraic functions of this form f n x equals to a0 x ki power n plus a1 x ki power n minus 1 up to constant term. These are called as a polynomial, where a0, a1, a2 up to an may be real number or complex numbers. A non-algebraic function is called transcendental function. For example, fx equals to x minus e ki power x, or gx equals to x minus cos x, etc. It means when your function consists of exponential function, trigonometric function, or polynomial function, combination of exponential, trigonometric, or polynomial function is known as a transcendental function, while only simple polynomial function is a non-transcendental function. So the roots of equation number 1, it means fx equals to 0 may be either real number or complex number. So we discuss methods of finding a real root of algebraic or transcendental equations, and also methods of determining all real and complex roots of polynomials. So in your syllabus, there are three methods: bisection method, regular fallacy method, Newton-Raphson method, and its generalization of Newton-Raphson methods to find the roots of equation fx equals to 0. So before driving these methods, first we define some basic results which we need to use to define these methods. So first one is, if fx is continuous function in the closed interval ab, and if f of a and f of b are of opposite signs, it means value of the function at the end points are of opposite signs, then there exists at least one point xi in the open interval ab such that f of xi equals to 0. It means if your function fx is continuous in the closed interval ab and value of the function at the end points are of opposite signs, it means suppose f at the left end it is positive and at the right end it is negative, then there exists at least one point in between a and b where your function or graph of the function intersect the x-axis, right? So this theorem states that if your function is continuous over the closed interval ab and value of the function at the left and right end are of opposite signs, then there exists at least one point where your function or graph of the function intersect the x-axis, right, in between a and b, right? Similarly, the second theorem, when let fx be a continuous function in the closed interval ab and k be any number between value of the function at a and ab, then there exists a number xi in the open interval ab such that f of xi equals to k. It means if your function is continuous in the closed interval ab, and suppose k is any number between the value of the endpoints of the interval, then there exists a number in the open interval ab such that value of the function at that point equals to k. So now we define bisection method by the use of these defined results. So basically this method is based on the theorems which is stated in the previous slide, which states that if fx is continuous function in the closed interval ab and value of the function at the left end and at the right end of the interval are of opposite signs, then there exists at least one root between a and b. For the time being, let f of a be positive and f of b is negative. It means suppose the value of the function at the left end is positive and at the right end is negative. Then the root lies between a and b, and let its approximate value be given by x0 equals to a plus b upon 2. It means suppose this is our a point and this is our b point. Value of this function fx at this point a is positive and this point b is negative. Then by the previous theorems, there existed at least one root between a and b, and suppose this values exist at the intermediate of a and b. It means average value of a and b, which is given by a plus b upon 2. Now, if f of x0, if x0 means a plus b upon 2 is 0, we conclude that x0 is a root of the equation fx equals to 0. On the other hand, it means this way. This is our left end of the interval and this is right end of the interval. If value of the function at a is positive, value of the function at b is negative, then there exists at least one point where your function fx intersect the x-axis, and suppose that point is x0, which is the average of these points a and b, or intermediate value of a and b, right? So otherwise the roots lies in either in this interval or in this interval. If this is your root of the function, then your problem is solved. Suppose this is not the exact root, then we take either of two subintervals a comma x0 or x0 comma b, which depends on the values of the function. So right, depending on whether f of x0 is positive or negative. It means we know that this is suppose positive and value of the function at this point is negative. Now depends your function value at this point is positive or negative. If value of the function is negative, then we select this subinterval x0 to b, and suppose value of the x0 is negative, then we consider this subinterval, right? So now we denote this new interval, either this one or this one, by a1 comma b1, whose length is b minus a upon 2, because length of whole interval a to b is b minus a. Now if we take the intermediate point, then the length of the subinterval will be b minus a upon 2. As before, this is a bisected at x1. Again we take intermediate value in the subinterval, which is somewhere here. Now that point is represented by x1, and the new interval will be exactly half of the length of the previous one. It means length of this one is b minus a upon 2. So now new subinterval length would be b minus a upon 4. Now we repeat this process until the latest interval, which contains the roots, is as small as desired, say some epsilon number. At the end of the nth step, the new interval will be an bn of length b minus a upon 2 ki power n. Now we then have b minus a upon 2 ki power n is less than epsilon, where epsilon is the given required accuracy of the roots, which gives on simplification n is greater than equals to log base e divided by log base e2. Now this relation gives the number of iterations required to achieve an accuracy epsilon. For example, if length of the interval is 1 and required accuracies of 2 decimal places, then we need at least 10 steps to find the roots of the equation up to 2 decimal places. So this bisection method is graphically represented by this way. So where value of the function at a point is positive and value of the function at b is negative. All right. So we take the average of a and b, and that is denoted by x0. And suppose at the point of x0 the value of the function is negative. Now we take the subinterval a to x0. Now again we take the intermediate point, and suppose that intermediate point is x1, where your function value is positive. Now we take the subinterval x1 to x0, and intermediate value of this subinterval is x2, and value of the function at this point x2 is negative. So in this way we approaches to the exact root, which is here, right? So basically what we have done in this method, first we find 2 points a and b by using heat and trial methods, where your value of the function at the one point is positive and some other point is negative. So first we find 2 points where your function value is of alternate sign, right? Then we use repeated use of intermediate value theorems. It means we find 2 points A and B, then we bisect the interval AB into subparts. We consider that subinterval where your function values are of opposite sign, and similarly we repeat the process till we get the required accuracy of the roots. So let us consider one example based on this method. Find a root correct to 3 decimal places. The roots lies between 0 and 0.5 of this equation 4e to the power minus x sin x minus 1 equals to 0. This is our transcendental type equation because it consists exponential and trigonometric functions. So now let fx equals to 4e to the power minus x sin x minus 1. Now we have value of the function at 0 is negative and value of the function at 0.5 is positive. So by the use of bisection method, first we take the intermediate value of 0 and 0.5, which is given by 0.25. Right? Now we find the value of the function at this point 0.25, and we get that value of this function at this 0.25 is negative. So we know that at 0 is negative and this point is also negative, and at this point is positive. So we consider this subinterval, right? Because at this point is negative and at this point is positive. So our new subinterval will be 0.25 up to 0.5. Now next we take the average of these 2 points, which is some 0.375, and we evaluate the value of this function, which may be either positive or negative. So in this way we approach to the exact root of the equation fx equals to 0, right? So the successive approximations are given by third iteration 0.3125, fourth iteration is this one, fifth iteration is this one, and sixth iteration is this one. So similarly up to 12 iterations we get the required result 0.371. It means when we stop the iteration, when we get the 2 consecutive values are same up to the desired accuracy, right? So in the program it is mentioned that we need the root up to 3 decimal places. As you could see here that x in the 11th iteration is 0.3704, and in the 12th iteration it is 0.3705. It means values are same up to 3 decimal places. So we stop the iteration here. Right? So approximate value of the root is given by 0.371, which is correct to 3 decimal places. Now next we define regular-Falsy method. So in this method we choose again 2 points A and B where your values of the function are of opposite signs. Again, it means we again find 2 arbitrary points A and B where values of the function are of opposite signs, and by the use of the previous theorem, the stated theorems, root must lie in between these points. So the method consists in replacing the part of the curve between the points a comma f of a and b comma f of b by means of the chord joining these points and taking the point of intersection of the chord with the x-axis and approximation to the roots. It means first we find 2 points A and B where your value of the function are of opposite signs, and at these 2 points over the graph fx. So first point is a comma f of a, second point is b comma f of b. We find the equation of the chord joining these 2 points. We know that how to find the equation of the line passes through 2 points. All right, and then we take the intersection of this chord with the x-axis as the approximate to the roots, right? So now the equation of the chord joining these 2 points is given by this relation, all right? Now next we take the intersection of this chord with the x-axis. It means we substitute y equals to 0 in this equation, and we get the first approximation to the root of the equation fx equals to 0. And the approximation value is given by x1 equals to a times f of b minus b times f of a upon f of b minus f of a, which is the first approximation to the root of fx equals to 0. Now, if f of x1 and f of a are of opposite sign, all right, then the root lies between a and x1, and we replace this point b by the new point x1 in this equation number 4 and obtain the next approximation. Otherwise, we replace this point a by x1 and generate the next approximation. The procedure is repeated till the roots is obtained to the desired accuracy. It means in this method, what we have to do, first we find two arbitrary points a and b where our function's values are of opposite signs, and suppose their points are a and b. Now next we find the equation of the chord joining these 2 points a comma f of a and b comma f of b over the graph, and we take the intersection of that chord with the x-axis and take that point as a initial approximation to the roots. Now we find the value of the function at this evaluated point x1. If this value of the function at x1 is positive or negative, accordingly we select, because we select that subinterval where your function values are of opposite sign. It means suppose here positive and here negative, then we take this subinterval. And suppose this is negative and this is positive, then we take this subinterval. It means your function values must be of opposite sign at the end of the interval, right? So graphically, this method can be shown this way. This is the given function graph, and there will in two arbitrary points a and b are given here, where value of the function at a is negative and at b is positive. So first we find the equation of the chord joining these 2 points b comma f of b with a comma f of a, and which intersect the x-axis at this point, which is suppose x1, and value of the function at this point x1 is negative, right? So we take this x1 as a initial first approximation. Now next we find the chord joining these 2 points x1 comma f of x1 and b comma f of b, and this intersect somewhere here. So in this way we approach to the exact root of the graph, exact root of the function fx equals to 0, right? Let us consider one example based on this one. The equation 2x equals to log base 10x plus 7 has a roots between 3 and 4. Find this root, correct to 3 decimal places by Regula-Falsi method. So we are in this problem, we have already given 2 arbitrary points 3 and 4. So we check whether our values of the function at this point is negative or positive. So fx equals to 2x minus log base 10x minus 7. So here a equals to 3 suppose, and b equals to 4, and value of the function at 3 is negative and value of the function 4 is positive. All right. So first we find the equation of the chord joining these points, which is given by this relation, and we take the intersection of that chord with the x-axis. Then first root is given by this relation x1 equals to a comma f of b minus b comma f of a upon f of b minus f of a. Now if we substitute the required values and simplify, then we get x1 equals to 3.7878. Now next we find the value of the function at this new point x1. Right? At this point x1 is value of the function is negative. So it means at the point 3 is negative, and the new evaluated point is also it is negative, and at the point 4 is positive. So it means our new subinterval will be 3.7878 up to 4, right? So therefore the roots lies between 3.7878 and 4. Now we take a equals to 3.7878 and b equals to 4. It means our x1 becomes a now, because here a, x1 and b at this point a your function value is negative, and new point at this point x1 is also negative, and at b is positive. So now our new subinterval will be this one, which is x1 comma b or a comma b. So now the second approximate value of the root is given by x2 equals to this relation, which is 3.7893, and f of x2 equals to 0.00041, which shows that x equals to 3.789 is the root correct to 3 decimal places. It means again same procedure we have followed. It means when we have to stop the iteration when we get two consecutive values of the roots are same up to the desired accuracy. Right. Now next we define Newton-Raphson method. So till now we drive two methods, bisection method and regular Falsy methods, which gives only one root of the equation at a time fx equals to 0. So in this method, by using this Newton-Raphson method, we can find all the root of the equations. Right? So in this method is generally used to improve the results obtained by one of the previous method. It means if x0 be an approximate root of fx equals to 0, then we can improve this x0 to the exact root of the equation fx equals to 0. And suppose let x1 is the exact root of the fx1 equals to 0, and where h is the error in the root. We have to find what is the value of h. So expanding f of x0 plus h by Taylor series, it means x1 is x0 plus h, and if we substitute this in this one, then we get f of x0 plus h equals to 0. Now if we expand this by using Taylor series, then we get this relation 5. Now if we neglect the second and higher order derivatives, then we obtain f of x0 plus h times f prime x0 equals to 0. And if we simplify this relation, then we get h equals to minus of f at x0, f prime at x0. A better approximation than x0 is therefore is given by x1, which is x0 minus f at x0 upon f prime at x0. So successive approximations are given by this relation xn plus 1 equals to xn minus f at xn divided by f prime at xn. This is our Newton-Raphson method, which improves the value of the root. Right. So graphically, this method represents that in this method consists in replacing the part of the curve between the points x0, f of x0 and the x-axis by means of the tangent to the curve at the point, and is described graphically as. It means first we find the initial approximation x0 by using previous two methods, either bisection method or regular Falsy method. And at this point x0, we replace the curve by a tangent at this point x0, f0, and we take the intersection of this tangent with the x-axis as the new approximate value of the roots. Alright. So suppose the tangent at this point is this line, so we take the intersection of this tangent line as x1. Alright. Now at this point x1 function value is given by this one f of x1, x1. So again we find the tangent line at this point x1 and take the intersection of this tangent line with the x-axis as the next approximation to the root, and suppose this is x2. So in this way we are approaching to the exact root. Suppose that is our exact root, and we get this exact root after some iterations. Alright. So let us take one example based on this one. Find a root of the equation x plus x sin x plus cos x equals to 0. It means this is again our transcendental type equation. So we have fx equals to x sin x plus cos x and its derivative, because in Newton-Raphson method we require derivative also. So derivative of this is given by x cos x. Now the Newton-Raphson method is therefore is this one, xn plus 1 equals to xn minus f at xn divided by f prime at xn. So to start, we need some initial approximation, and suppose that the initial approximation is x0 equals to pi. So the successive iterates are given below. So in the first iteration, n equals to 0, we get x1 equals to, if we put n equals to 0 in this one, then we get x0 basically 3.1416. It means value of the pi is 3.1416, and value of the function at this point is -1, and the next approximate value is 2.8233. Now this is our new approximate value. Now if we substitute this value in this relation, then we get this 2.7986. Similarly, second iteration gives this one, third iteration gives this one, and as we could see here that after 3 steps we get the value of the function is 0, and we stop the iteration here because the two consecutive values are same and value of this function at these value is 0. So our root of this equation x sin x plus cos x is 2.7984 by using Newton-Raphson method. Right. Now, generalized Newton-Raphson methods. So till now we have tried method which gives only single root of the equation fx equals to 0. Now how to find the multiple roots of the equation or all the root of the equation? So we use generalized Newton-Raphson method. Suppose if xi is the root of the equation fx equals to 0 with multiplicity p, then the iteration formula corresponding to equation number 6, which is your Newton-Raphson method, is taken as this one: xn plus 1 equals to xn minus p times f at xn divided by f prime at xn, where n equals to 0, 1, 2, and so on. Now, if it means if p equals to 1, then this formula reduced in equation number 6, which is our Newton-Raphson method. And here p represents the multiplicity of the roots here. So which means that 1 upon p times f prime xn is the slope of the straight line, passes through the point xn comma pi n and intersect the x-axis at the point xn plus 1 comma 0. Now since xi is a root of fx equals to 0 with multiplicity p, it follows that xi is also a root of f prime x equals to 0 with multiplicity p minus 1 of f double prime at x equals to 0 with multiplicity p minus 2 and so on. It means suppose your function fx equals to x cube equals to 0, right? Then if x equals to 0 is the root of the function fx equals to x cube with multiplicity 3, x cube equals to 0, it means x equals to 0 of the function fx equals to x cube with multiplicity 3. It means its first derivative, it means x cube first derivative will be 3x square, has roots of multiplicity 2 because here x की power 2, and its second derivative has a roots x equals to 0 with multiplicity 1. All right. So in this way, so we get these expression x0 minus p f at x0 f prime at x0 x0 minus this one x0 minus and this one. So it means if your function fx has a roots at x0 with multiplicity p, then these expressions must have same values, right? Must have the same values if there is a root with multiplicity p, provided that the initial approximation x0 is chosen sufficiently close to the roots. So it means these expressions are very important for the calculation of the multiple roots, right? So to find the multiple roots, the value of these expression must be same. All right. Let us consider one example based on this one. Find a double root of the equation x cube minus x square minus x plus 1 equals to 0. Now we start with some initial approximation, and suppose x0 equals to 0.8. So by these results here p, it means we have to find the double root. It means p equals to 2. So we substitute p equals to 2 in this relation. So this is x0 minus 2 times of f of at x0 f prime at x0, and this is x0 minus 1 f prime at x0 f double prime at x0. So we substitute these required values and we find 1.012, and then this is 1.043. The closeness of these values indicates that there is a double root near the unity. So therefore the next approximation we choose x1 equals to 1.01. It means near about this one, and obtain the value of these two expressions again. So 1.001 and 1.0001. So we conclude therefore that there is a double root and at x equals to 1.0001, which is sufficiently close to the actual root of unity. So thank you for today. In the next lectures, we start with transforms.